An empty space stands still and bare. The sound of footsteps then fills the air. Look up, look up, look up and see. What color will it be?
Pink!
What is pink?
My balloon is pink.
What else is pink? A pink pig. Candy floss is pink. Pink flamingos. Can you spot anything that's pink? Pink fruit, like raspberries. Dragon fruit. Pink prawns. Pink can be delicious. Ooh, a cheeky pink tongue. Ugh, and nose. And little toes. A warm pink coat. Lots of things are pink, aren't they? You can use pink paint to make art.
Shall we explore the colour pink?
Do you know how to make pink? Red and white. White and red. Oops! Mix them together. And it makes pink.
Pink!
Let's use even more paint.
Shall we make some art using the colour pink?
It'll make a beautiful picture.
Pink makes me think of a pink pig. Pink makes me think of cherry blossom.
Lots of different shades of pink, lighter and darker ones.
Pink makes me think of marshmallows and candy floss.
And then sponge, sponge, sponge. That's it. Cover it in pink. Now we've finished painting, let's see what happens when I take the tape off.
A picture with pink paint. But it's not just in art where you might see the color pink. Pink is the color of spring in Japan as the cherry blossom trees bloom. Lots of people visit the trees and picnic under them. It's called hanami. Pink can light up the sky or make a bright pink lake. Pink is all around us. Isn't it a delightful color? Pink, bright like raspberries, soft like a rose. Squidgy pink piggy nose. Tasty pink, sugary sweet. Pinky peck on a little pink cheek. Bright pink, baby pink. Splashes of color stretching for miles, like pale pink fireworks. Full of popping pink flowers. Bright pink water surrounds a bay. A sunset pink at the end of the day.